everybody. My name is Beth Iaciofano, and I am a certified master neurotransformational life coach and an intuitive medium. A little bit about myself. I have a daughter, and actually, she was the catalyst to my spiritual awakening, I like to call it. She's 24 years old, and she has severe special needs. She's nonverbal. So, pretty much before I had her, I think I was kind of like living kind of like day to day, not really awake, not really aware of energy, not aware of spirituality. And with her severe special needs, I really needed to tap into and I needed something to hold on to. And like all parents, parenting is hard. And when you have a special needs child who's just screaming, and I needed to go to so many specialists, and I just needed something to hold on to. So I needed to learn to trust myself, my inner knowing, my intuition. And so my first real introduction to really what energy is was through John Edward. I don't know if any of you have ever seen Crossing Over with John Edward. But I found it and I just devoured it, and I would watch it all the time. And um, from that point, I started to really be in tune with the energies around me. I really didn't understand what spirit guides were at that point. I knew I had them because he always mentioned the boys. He referenced his spirit guides as the boys. So I knew that they were with me and I knew that they were there to help me, but I really didn't have any relationship with them. And but I did with the loved ones that I had that had passed. And I started to have visits, and I started to see signs and just things that were happening to help me know that I wasn't alone, because it was very isolating. I was going through a divorce too. So had a rocky marriage to begin with. And then I had this daughter, this child, with special needs. So it just crumbled. There was no foundation. So it just crumbled. So I had to navigate life as a single mom. And what's interesting is I think obviously I've been connected my whole life, but wasn't really in tune so much with it, except before I got pregnant with my daughter. I remember having an argument with my then husband, and we were living in New Jersey at the time. And my family was all in Connecticut. So I remember having this argument with him, and I remember sitting on my bed and just staring at the wall saying, I should not have children with this man. And it was I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was a feeling I had in my body like, oh, this is just not right. And I completely pushed it aside because, our body is always the first to know, and our brain is the last to get on board. So I pushed it aside because I wanted a family. So fast forward, here we are with a special needs child. And by the way, I graduated from college, got a degree in biology, and I was working as a lab tech before I had Hannah. So that wasn't going to work anymore because I needed to be home with her. So now, fast forward, going through a divorce, and spirituality really growing throughout this time, starting to learn to trust my inner knowing and starting to see signs and be aware of things that were happening around us. And next sign was teaching. And it's interesting because I've always been a teacher. Every single job I had, I was the one who trained. And someone had mentioned to me, she's like, you should be Ashley is one of Hannah's therapists. She's like, you should be a teacher. Like when she first started working with Hannah, and I'm like, oh no, that's not for me. I don't want to be a teacher. Well, a couple of years later, what do I end up doing? I go back to school to get my certification to teach. So all the while taking pieces, energetic pieces, and just collecting them. I wasn't putting them together into a puzzle yet, but I was collecting them. And navigating life as a single mom, having to make these choices, these decisions for my daughter and for myself. And pretty much when I followed my intuition, not pretty much, all the time, it worked out. Money always seemed to be there. I always was okay. Even when I got scared, it always worked out. So I needed to tap into myself. Okay, teaching. What is this going to look like? All right, I want to teach science. I have a degree in biology. Okay. I let myself feel what felt right. I was aware of it even back then before I put these pieces together. And the school I ended up working at, it just felt right. One of the teachers that was there, her father was one of my teachers in college. And I happened to be, when I was going to school to get my certification to teach, I was working as a lab, like an assistant, I guess you'd call it, that would set up the labs. And her dad was still there. So there was a connection. So I ended up getting this middle school job. I was a middle school teacher for 17 years. And I loved it when I loved it. And SEL was a big thing with me. I brought in stress balls and worry stones, crystals, and taught my kids how to do EFT and breathing. So all these pieces, all these years, I've just been picking up, and I was sharing them with my students because I always viewed the curriculum as the vehicle to help me teach all these things, study strategies and organization and everything that they would need to be a productive human being. I didn't care if they didn't know the phases of the moon. They can look that up. But I was worried. I wanted to make sure they had good time management, that they knew how to study, that they had good test taking skills, that they felt cared for, that they knew how to handle their stress and anxiety. So all these things I was putting together out all these years. So it was beautiful when I look back at how everything progressed, but not being really fully aware as it was happening, not like I am now. So around 2018, I started teaching in 2006. So around 2018, I started to get a little bit like, I started to feel misaligned. Didn't know what it was at the time, but I know now. I just wasn't aligned with what I needed to be doing. But I pushed it away. And like, well, what else am I going to do? And I'm making, decent money. I have the insurance. I had already met and married my new husband, and I had the insurance for our family. So I'm like, all right, I'm just pushing it aside. Well, then 2020 happened. And we all know what happened with education then. So screeching halt, online, then it went to, hybrid. And so in 2021, I took another job because I was really unhappy being in the cluster. I was just so stressed out. And I figured a new job would be it. That would be, woohoo, a new job. All right. So they had made this new course, kitchen science. All right. So the great thing was I got to I built the program. I wrote the curriculum. I were in the lab half the time. The lab was a kitchen where they were, doing cooking different things and seeing the reactions that occurred, and then they were in the classroom the other half, learning the science behind what was happening. So I figured, oh, this is what I was looking for, right? I'm going to see more kids because I saw everyone in the school because it was a unified arts class. So I'm like, oh, I can impact even more. This is going to be great. It wasn't. And I just needed to get away from teaching the middle school child. That was the bottom line. I needed to take a risk. I was scared. I was terrified, actually. And that's why I wasn't seeing that that's what I needed to do, because I was scared. I had all these walls built up. Okay, I'm safe here. I know I'm good at my job. I'm well liked. The kids liked me. I did a good job. So I was comfortable. But emotionally, I just wasn't having it anymore. So all in this time, I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure I remembered the date. So the beginning of 2022. So I took the job in 2021. The beginning of 2022 was when I started taking like little workshops around energy and started to learn more about it. In September of 2022, my life changed for the better. One of the women that I had taken one of the workshops with, Jamie Hearn, Jami Hearn, she was going to start this course with a friend of hers, Robin Eaton, want to drop both their names because they are amazing women, powerful, amazing women. So they decided they were going to co-teach this class on energy. And it was everything energy related. And I get so excited talking about it because it was everything that I needed. I learned I learned about what energy is and how I could harness it. And I already had been harnessing it. I already had. I wasn't aware of it. So it was like you guys, it was so cool. It was like a switch went on and I was awake and my heart opened up, walls started coming down. It was like unbelievable. And I I stepped away. January. So September of 2022 is when this course started. September of 2022. It was every Monday night. I had the courage to step away. In January, I said, this is going to be my last year. So I gave them 6 months, to hire someone, train. And I can't even tell you how amazing this class was. And I also tapped into my mediumship ability, which I did not know I had. I knew I was intuitive. I knew that I saw things sometimes, but I wasn't aware I could talk to people that had passed over, energies that had crossed over. And it was so cool. And I wasn't scared in the least. One of the exercises that they had us do is we had to call someone on the phone and we had to guess what they were holding in their hand. And the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God, I actually did it. And then the next couple of times, like other stuff was coming in, and I couldn't dial into it. It was really weird. I was like, why am I seeing a bowl when she's holding a cat collar? Like it didn't make sense, and I started doubting myself. And so the next class, I asked my instructors, I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. I just can't do this. I guess. And they're like, no, just go with it. Write down what you're seeing. Start paying attention to what you're seeing, because when I work as a medium, I see. I'm a very visual learner, and it makes sense now because I'm clairvoyant. So I see, it's like a movie in my head, and I'll see images. And that's what I was doing. I was seeing images. And I remember my sister's boyfriend. He was the first one that I did this with, that I actually tapped into energy of someone who had passed. And I was like, oh, this is new. All right. So another energetic piece that helped me live my best life, helped me lead me to creating the life I wanted. But I didn't know that I wanted that at the time. So I love talking about this, like how to create the life you want. It's about, the first step is being aware. It's just being aware of how you feel and what's going on around you. Pay attention. So, yeah, I started really tapping in. I started keeping a journal of the symbols that I was seeing and what they meant, and just practice. So it's amazing. And what's really cool about this is that through this class, I also built my relationship with my guides. But actually, I got to mention something because this was cool. Prior, like a couple of years prior, a long time actually prior, before I was even married to my husband now, I had found Sylvia Brown, and I bought one of her books, and in the back was a meditation to meet your guides. So I remember sitting in my living room. I had candles lit. I had it on, and that's when I met one of my guides for the first time. And I still remember like it was yesterday, very clear in my head where she was coming from this gazebo. I mean, it was so, so clear. So with this energy class, I really, really started to build a relationship with my spirit guides. And just started I just got a tingle down my left leg. That's their way of communicating with me when I'm spot on. So that's really, really cool. I think they're happy to be included in the conversation. So that's important. I love that I'm on this spiritual forum because I'm singing to the choir really with this stuff, and creating a relationship with your guides. For me, it was imperative. especially with the mediumship and with my coaching, because as a transformational life coach, I work with my clients to clear beliefs, patterns, programming that's no longer serving them. And I also help them, guide them to understand the power of energy and how we harness it by being aware of our thoughts, emotions, and words to create the life that we desire. So when I'm working with a client and I'm coaching them and something comes up and I'm like, oh, I'm thinking in my own head, all right, where am I going to go with this? All I need to do is ask my guides. All right, where do I go with this? And immediately it comes in and I know what to say, what exercise to do. I'm not sure what that noise was just now. So I am given a question to ask them. So it's so cool having the communication that I do with my guides and the relationship, and I foster it every day through journaling. Almost every day. Sometimes I'm not as good about journaling, but most every day I journal. So with energy, it's important to understand that everything in the universe has a unique energetic vibration. If you think about our brains, our cells, our neurons communicate through electricity, either an electrical signal or a chemical signal if it's between neurons. That's energy. So I want you to think about energy almost like not the same as gravity, but similar in this way. If I drop this pen right now, if I let go of it, it's going to drop. We can't see the force of gravity, but we can see the effect of it. We can see what it causes, right? So we can't actually see the gravitational pull, but we know there's a law of gravitational. I don't know what that noise is, but anyway, I don't know if you guys can hear it for just me, but so everything that's made of matter has a gravitational pull. So if I drop it, it's going to go to the earth because the earth has more mass, has more gravity, right? Energy works very similarly, where if we have a thought, every thought that we have has a vibration, has an energetic vibration. So when we send that thought out into the universe, it's going to attract something that's like it, and it's going to bring it forth to us. So being aware of your thoughts is really important, because if you're thinking about something that you don't want, like, I don't want today to be a bad day. Oh, I've got this meeting at work, and I'm meeting with this one client. Oh, he's a pain in the butt. And oh my God, if you start going with that energy and those thoughts, that's what's going out, and that's what you're going to pull in. So that's the evidence. The evidence is pay attention to what you think and what comes back. Okay? Because your thoughts are very, very powerful. They are almost like a magnet pulling in. I want you to think of a magnet. If I don't have a magnet with me, but if I had a magnet and a paper clip, they would be drawn to each other, right? That's the way our thoughts are with what we bring in. So thinking about emotions as well, they have a vibration. They have an energetic vibration. Think about something that makes you sad. And then think about something that makes you happy. It's almost like if you're anxious, depressed, sad, angry, it feels like you have like a weight on you, because those are lower vibration energy. But when we think of something joyful and happy and peaceful, I can just feel it in your body too. You feel it differently because those are higher vibration. So we want to stay with the higher vibration. Okay? And we want to think and we want to speak what we want to bring back to us. So always think, okay, what am I going to think about now? Our brains are wired to create. They're not wired for lack. So if you are thinking, oh, I want to get rid of this habit. Oh, I want to stop doing this. I want to lose this. Those are all negative or lack. Those are all words that mean lack. Our brain doesn't process that. So if you say, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds, your brain hears, I want 20 pounds. So how can you reframe it in a different way that is towards creation? You can say, I want to create a healthy body. I want to create more energy. I want to create a body where I have where I feel free, where I can move easily. Notice how I'm cognizant about what words I use, and I actually stop to think about it, because it's so natural for us to think in the negative. Oh, I just want to lose this attitude. I just got to get rid of this attitude. How many times do we say lose, get rid, lack? I need it out of here. I want you to pay attention. I really invite you to pay attention to bringing in what you want to create. The words that make you feel lighter. Abundance. What do I want to bring into my life? What am I going to turn towards? This is what I want. Let me turn towards that, as opposed to let me turn away from this. Let me turn towards this. I'm really hoping you guys aren't hearing that sound that I'm hearing, because it's really annoying. I'm not going to lie. But everything happens as it's supposed to, right? We just talk right through it. So I've got my little notes here because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, so awareness of what you're creating. So be aware of your thoughts. Be aware of your emotions. How does this feel in your body? How does a specific word feel? And you're going to, once you start getting used to it, you're going to actually feel like, oh, that doesn't feel right at all. Let me see how I can rephrase that. Let's say you're going to work, okay, and you have to deal with this client. I invite you to say on your way to work, how can I create what I'm looking for today? I'm excited to see how I can create what I want to feel. So take it from dread and heavy energy to, okay, what am I going to see? See how even my facial expression increased, like, okay, let me see what I can create. You just sit up taller when you're thinking about things that you want to bring into your life, as opposed to things you want to get rid of. I want to create peace in my life. I want to create joy. I want to bring that into my life. I welcome that into my life. So thinking about the language is really, really important. Okay. Our words are powerful. Attention, intention, and language. Those three things. Be attentive to what you're thinking, have the intention of what you want to create, and then have the language that supports that. The language that supports the intention. So attention, intention, language. You'd be amazed. And do a little experiment. Like, you'd be amazed at what happens when you actually try this. I remember, let me tell you a little story. I was teaching. It was my last year of teaching. And that's the thing too. The universe brings you what you need. I needed to get out. I was already thinking, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And everything happens as it's supposed to. And I had a really hard last year of teaching. I'm not going to lie. It was really, really hard. So that was the impetus for me to say, okay, this is it. But I was having one of those days and I knew better. I just had a bad attitude. I'm not going to lie. I had a bad attitude. And the kids came in, and eighth graders. I taught seventh and eighth graders, but this was an eighth grade class. The eighth grade was particularly difficult that year. I had a handful of kids that were just disruptive and just made it their job to be that way. So I just had it in my head that I was having them do something, working on a project and whatever. That's the attitude that I had. And guess what I got? Trouble from beginning to end. And I knew it was my fault. I knew it. But once the cattle was out of the barn, I'm like, all right, what am I going to do now? I gotta suck this up, deal with it the best I can, and focus on what I want to create. This was before I was really into, really aware of all the creation part of it. So sometimes we just need to learn by making the mistakes. But I have to ask myself, okay, is this how I'm feeling right now? Is this serving me? Is this supporting me? I want you guys to keep that phrase in your back pocket. So when you're thinking something, is this supporting me? If it's not, then you're not in alignment and you need to figure out what you need to be thinking to get back into alignment. Now, having said that, here's the problem sometimes that occurs with thinking positive. And thinking positive is phenomenal. It's fabulous. I just don't use that phrase anymore because what some people do is they push down their emotion. Oh, I don't want to feel that, so I'm just going to think positive. And then what happens is that energy of that emotion stays trapped in your body and it damages your cells and it causes illness. So thinking positive comes after you unpack what's causing you to want to think positive to begin with. If that makes any sense, let me say it again. So if you're thinking about something and instead of addressing it, you say, "Oh, I'm just going to think positive. I know that I need to make this phone call and I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to think positive. Oh, I'm going to whatever tomorrow." And just changing the subject, not addressing what the fear is. Why am I afraid to make this phone call? So I'm pushing down the emotion that I'm afraid of something and thinking about something else that's going to make me happy, which is great. But meanwhile, that emotion's still stuck in my body and I'm not addressing the fear, which is causing me not to make the phone call, which is causing extra anxiety. So this is when I use journaling. And journaling is a lifesaver for me because what I do is I dump journal first. So I would dump journal on that fear. I'm afraid of making this phone call, and whatever comes to mind is what I say. I can be swearing at somebody, I can do whatever in my journal because I'm writing to release the energy. That's the purpose. I'm not writing it to ever go back and read it. I just want to release that energy. Okay? So once I do that, once I purge the energy, then I can focus on what I desire and what I want to create for my life. So, and that's also the way I communicate with my guides. So journaling is only one way to calm and be aware. And this is one of my freebie is tips to quieting the mind. And also you can schedule a coaching session with me or a mediumship session with me. So both of them. If you go to my website, I'm going to say this right now so I don't forget. If you go to my website, riseuptotransform.com, you're going to see in the upper right-hand corner a button that says freebie. And what that is tips to quieting the mind. So if you're one of those people that has your brain going round and round and round and round and round, then absolutely, please go to my website, riseuptotransform.com, and you can get the freebie. And what you see scrolling down below is my Calendly. It's a scheduler for coaching and for the mediumship. For the coaching, consultation first session are always free. Okay? So in the mediumship is $75 for 45 minutes. But the freebie, it's important that you tap in to in order to tap in and listen to your inner guidance, you've got to quiet your mind. So if you're a spinner, please go and get the freebie. Journaling is one of the ways. Breathing, being mindful, exercise, all these different ways to just get your mind centered and grounded. Because you can't feel aligned. You can't feel what you need to feel until you get the noise out. Okay? So it's so important to stay mindful of your words, your emotions, and your thoughts. They all go hand in hand. And if a client says to me, Beth, I don't even know what I want. I don't even know what to think about because I don't know what I want. Then I'll say, okay, but you know what you don't want, right? Because that's what you've been living. You've been living what you don't want. The beauty is in the contrast. Because if you know what you don't want, you have an idea of what you do want. And that's what you focus on. Focusing on a problem is never going to give you the solution. It's only going to bring more of the problem in because you're putting the wrong energy out. Okay? So that's part of what journaling does for me. It releases the energy so that then instead of focusing on the problem, I focus on what I desire and what I want to create, thereby fixing the problem. So too often we worry about things that we can't control. What worry does is it sends hormones into our body and it wreaks havoc on our body. It wreaks havoc because it breaks down cell walls. Those hormones, cortisol, stress hormone, not good for us. So worrying about something does absolutely no good. So I'm going to invite you, instead of worrying, focus on what you want. So if you're a parent whose child's going away to school and you're worried, oh, I don't want this to happen, I want you to focus instead on see them thriving. See them happy with their friends. Imagine yourself giving them a big hug when they come home to visit. That feels better in your body, right? Worrying that they're going to get into an accident or someone's going to hurt them or whatever, that doesn't feel good in your body. And remember, I've got a child, 24-year-old nonverbal child. She can't tell me if someone is hurting her. So I had to let go of that. It was not serving me being stressed about it. I pay attention to the signs and I envision her happy at her day program. I envision her being taken care of. That makes me feel good. That gives out the energy that I want to give out. And I'm aligned. If you're feeling out of sorts, you're misaligned with your higher power. Your higher self is misaligned. Your higher self is not moving from this place. So if you're feeling stressed, anxious, depressed, whatever it is, you're out of alignment. So the universe, a lot of people will say, well, this isn't good for me. Why is the universe giving me that? The universe is giving you what you ask for. So if you ask for stress, if you ask for anger, if you ask for depression, that's what you're going to get. Now, having said that, is there a place for medication for people that need to get their brain chemistry on level? Absolutely. This isn't like, oh, let's just get rid of all medication. Absolutely not. Sometimes you need help to actually then do the work. You need the medication so that then you can unpack all this stuff with a therapist, with a coach. Everybody needs help. Everybody needs a coach, a therapist on call, because we're all human beings. And we all have problems and we all have beliefs and patterns and programming that we bring with us from childhood. But the way to live the life that you want is to be aware of your thoughts, your emotions, and your words. And that starts with learning how to quiet the mind so that you can listen to your intuition, listen to your guides, and just pay attention to how you're feeling. Does this feeling support me right now? And worrying about my daughter doesn't get me anywhere. It doesn't support me. And eventually I'm going to have to put her in a placement because I won't be alive forever and she can't live on her own. So it's my job as her mom to make sure that I find a place for her, or I'm led to a place that she will be happy in. And I trust with every fiber in my being that my guides will send me there. When it's time, the place will show itself, and I will trust the places that I see. I will trust, just like I did with her day program. There were a couple I was like, oh no, this isn't happening. And I knew when I met the people where she is now that that's where she was meant to be. And I trust it because I've had enough years of doing it and seeing the results of it. So if you stay stuck in what you can't control, if you stay stuck in the past, that's what you're going to continue to bring forward. The only way out of it is to think about what you want and to focus on what you want to create. Make a list. I have my clients make a list. What do you want? If they don't know what they want, how do you want to feel? Remember, the beauty is in the contrast. And guess what? If you know what pain is, you know what joy is. Because you wouldn't be able to label it as pain if you didn't know the contrast as well. So you know it, you just have to tap into it. So tap into the emotion first. What do I want to feel? And then what thoughts are going to support that? What thoughts and what words are going to support that? Attention, intention, language. Okay? Those three things. And then work on unpacking as you're also working on how to focus on what you want to create. So both of these are important. It's the unpacking and the energy work that I think for me and my clients works together. It just works for them. So I kind of go back and forth between focusing on the energy, and then when I tap into something that needs to be cleared, I'm like, okay, let's do this. And then we'll see if we can clear this feeling, clear this emotion. All right, how does that feel in your body after it's done? What did you take away from it? What can you anchor? So there's so much to it, and we have control over all of it. We have choice. We don't have to decide anything. Which feels better in your body? I have to make a decision. I have choices. Choices feels better, right? You always have choices. It's just a matter of figuring out what they are. Okay, so instead of saying I have to make this decision, what am I going to choose from? How much power does that have in it? Instead of I got to decide, ooh, what am I going to choose? That's all on me. So you can even tell in my face when I tap into a word that just feels better in my body. So once you start getting in tune with your language and how powerful it is, thoughts, emotions, words. It's the trifecta, gang. This is going to get you what you want. But sometimes it's hard work and it's uncomfortable. And sometimes we're used to sitting. I always tell my clients, we're used to that dirty diaper. That's right here, right? We're used to sitting in that dirty diaper of, all right, well, this is the way I feel. And we're so used to it, we don't even know that we're sitting in it after a certain amount of time. But it takes a little bit, it got to get a little bit dirtier before you get clean. Because it's the unpacking and looking in the mirror and saying, okay, what am I taking responsibility for? My first divorce, that relationship failing, that wasn't only his fault. I brought him into my life for a reason. My energy brought him in, and all the guys after, until I did the work on myself. And I looked in the mirror and I said, what are you doing? You're the common denominator here. What do you need to change? And that's what I did. I figured out what I needed to change, and I changed it. And I met my husband now. So you have to be honest with yourself. You see the blanket going? My dog is going crazy down here. But you've got to be honest with yourself, you guys. You got to be honest and understand that you create your life. You create your life, which is so empowering. Because if I created what happened before, I can create what happens in the future. So when I get scared, yeah, I've had my business for a year. I'm still building it. When I get nervous and I want to fall back on a job that I really don't want, I ask myself this: if the universe will support me in a job that I don't want, that doesn't really serve me, that I don't feel good in, why won't it support me in a job that I do want, that I do feel good in? The answer is it will. I have to trust. And I have to trust that I need to go from A to Z in all the steps. I cannot go from A to S. I can't skip all this learning. I have to expand into B, then I have to expand into C, and then D, and then E. So it takes time. But if I have the thought, it's already coming to me. I just need to be patient and expect it. I need to be patient and expect it because it is coming. There's so much learning that I have to do to get ready for this. And this isn't the end. Z isn't even the end. Then I got double A and double B and double C, right? It's just the next big step in my life that I want. So our journey is never ending. It's a never ending journey until we cross over to the other side, right? So live your best life. Create the life you desire by being aware of your thoughts, your actions, and your words and your emotions. Attention, intention, language. So thank you for your attention. RiseUpToTransform.com is where you'll find everything about me. And I have a podcast too, The Hats We Wear. So yeah, thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy all the other talks that are on this forum. And thank you to Charisse and her gang for putting this all together. Everybody have a wonderful day.